Olá, Tiago Faria, tiagofaria.pt. Bem-vindos ao meu canal do podcast do Tiago Faria. Eu hoje tenho um convidado muito especial, Stephan Spencer. Ele é um especialista de SEO com mais de 20 anos de experiência. Estamos aqui no Tivoli Oriente. Foi uma entrevista quase improvisada, é a primeira vez que eu estou a fazer ao vivo. E, portanto, vamos falar com o Stephan. Welcome, Stephan, to my channel. Thanks so much for accepting the invitation.
Of course, happy to be here.
So yeah, every time I made a quick introduction already for my audience, but could you tell us a bit more about yourself, your origins?
Sure. Okay, so I've been doing SEO for many, many years, since the 90s. I started in biochemistry. I dropped out of a PhD program to start an agency. Yes. And then I got this crazy idea to move to New Zealand 4 years into it. And I'd never been there, but I applied for residency, got in, convinced my wife at the time and my kids that, hey, we should do this. We actually maintained our US-based client base, even though I was halfway around the world. And then
over time, it okay, right?
It was a fabulous experience. Yeah. Stayed there for almost 8 years and built an office block from the beach with a big team of staff to work on our US-based clients. Yeah.
Living the life.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then we started doing, focusing on SEO audits and consulting, not just baking in SEO into the e-commerce websites that we were building. So that was in early 2000s. And 2009, I came out with the first edition of my book, The Art of SEO, with my co-authors. And now I've got 2 other books with O'Reilly. In fact, now we're in the 3rd edition of the book, The Art of SEO. Third. So this is 994 pages, something like that. So
you can tell as a biochemist, so there's a lot of science there.
There's a lot of science here, even though it's called The Art of SEO. It's called The Art of SEO because it's like the art of war.
I got it. Okay. Right? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I was asking you before, what do you think were the major mistakes you made in the beginning of your career that turned out to be major lessons for how you are now?
Yeah. So, gosh, there's so many lessons learned. One was I tried to sell my agency in the early days when I wanted to move to New Zealand because I thought I probably wouldn't be able to maintain a US-based business from New Zealand.
On the beach.
And here's the problem with that. If you are intertwined with your personal brand and your company brand are intertwined, then nobody wants to buy your company if you don't go with it.
Got it.
So nobody would buy the company, and I ended up moving and keeping the company, and then I was able to really grow it massively, which ended up being a huge blessing and gift, and I would have not expected that, but it happened.
Brilliant. And so I was asking also, out of all the ramifications of marketing, you tried web design, marketing strategy. So why SEO specifically? What made you fall in love with this?
Because it's such an experimental science. I could test things and see what, yeah. So there's, for example, I spoke at the very first SMX Advanced conference in like 2007. And the idea that I gave to Danny Sullivan for a session was called Give It Up, where you share some of your best secrets. And I had figured out things like how to deconstruct whether the indented second result is in that actual position, or if it was lower, but then visually promoted to be higher, to be grouped. It's called, at the time it was called host crowding. To be in the same block with the other site, or with the other page from the same site. So I was able to add things like &num equals 9 to the end of the search result URL, so show 9 results per page, then 8, then 7, then 6, until I found where that indented listing dropped off. So I figured out all this sort of stuff that nobody else had figured out because I'm an engineer at heart. I'm like, I love geeking out in this stuff. And so sharing all these ninja tips and tricks that I had figured out in this session. And after that session, it was a conference a few weeks later, Rand Fishkin comes up to me in the speaker room at SES Toronto and gives me a hug. I'd never spoken to him before. But he gave me a hug and said, dude, you brought it at the last conference at SMX Advanced. That Give It Up session was incredible. And in that conversation, we decided to write a book together, which was the SEO cookbook for O'Reilly, which then morphed into The Art of SEO. So that's how the book came about, because I was so giving at that one conference, and it was all my competitors.
Was it this big already? Or?
Well, no. It was...
it's too long. Where is Hangouts? Sorry about this, guys. The window's not open? The panel? No. The Hangout window should be separate somewhere. We're live. We're still live. Yeah, we're live. Apology about this. We have just a quick issue with the laptop, but I think it'll be solved now. There we go.
All right, there we go.
Sorry
We're
about
back.
that.
So what was I saying?
The book, yeah, it was not as big as it is.
It was probably about 600 pages, and then the next edition added a couple hundred more pages, and the next edition after that added 250 more.
Is it additional information or just
No, additional information,
Okay.
because things change and come up with new ideas. Like, oh, we should have a glossary of terms. Oh, we should have, this, that, or the other thing, or we need a whole chapter on penalties. And so it just grows and grows and grows. But the problem with this is now that it's essentially 1,000 pages, it's too daunting for a lot of people. They don't want to learn SEO.
It's like reading a dictionary.
Yeah, or a phone book, if you remember back in the days when they actually had phone books. So this is a deterrent for some people, but it actually is a great sales tool, because when I hand it to somebody and give it to them as a gift, they're like, that's great, but I'm never going to read it. Can I just hire you? And I'm like, of course. I do consulting. I'm happy to.
It's a brilliant strategy. Wow.
Yeah, it's like a big business card.
This is what you have to do. How to do it? You have to ask me now.
Yeah.
So now let's talk SEO. So my audience is composed of small businesses, and most of them don't even have a blog, don't create content. They have like static websites with their services. We're awesome, blah, blah, blah. What would you tell such business owners? What would the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, the first thing is to think of SEO as building an asset, whereas when you're doing pay-per-click or any paid media, you are essentially just spending money.
Renting kind of something.
Yeah, it's somebody else's land that you're renting, essentially. And the same thing if you build up a presence on Facebook, right? A very active Facebook group, or you build up your Twitter presence or Instagram presence. Well, what happens if they change the rules, or they decide that you violated their rules and then they yank the rug from under you?
Happened many times.
It's horrible.
MySpace, so many networks, social media that's closed, or
Right.
change their terms and conditions.
Changing the terms, or just somebody else gets you in trouble. And like there's this in SEO, there's negative SEO attacks where you can get your site hurt because of a competitor who targets you. Well, things happen, and there are competitors who are out to get you. So you want to, what James Schramko calls own the race course, right? So if somebody else owns the race course and they decide to change the rules, you might be in trouble eventually. You're in big trouble. Yeah. So I forget where I was heading with this, but I totally forget where I was heading with it.
Small business owner, yeah. Okay.
So the small business owner needs to invest in an asset that is going to pay dividends over time. With SEO, let's say you do link building for a year or two, and then you stop. 6 months sabbatical, you go sit on a beach. Guess what? You still benefit from those several years of work that you put in. Not so with paid search, right?
You stop it, no more.
Everything goes away. So this is a really important distinction. So you need to invest in your SEO because it builds up the asset value of your business. And another thing too is you need to remember that there are 3 pillars to SEO. And so if you are addressing only one of the pillars and not, or 2 even, and not all 3, you're going to essentially be sitting on a 1 or 2-legged stool and it will fall over. So you need to address the 3 pillars: content, architecture, and links. The architecture includes all the geeky technical stuff, right? So canonical tags and robots.txt disallows and no index, robots meta tags and all that. The architecture also includes like URL structure and internal linking structure. So that's all the architecture stuff. But the links is the most under-addressed part of the equation, because people don't know how to request a link or how to build rapport and relationship with bloggers and influencers so that they are inclined to link to you. So they just like leave it alone and then hope that people say, I should blog about this particular company and put a link in that post. Not going to happen. So then their links pillar is completely nothing, and they're sitting on a two-legged stool. They've addressed the technical stuff, maybe hired a proper SEO person to do a technical SEO audit and get all the recommendations implemented by their developers or IT people. So that's handled. And then they have the content pillar handled by doing keyword research and figuring out the right words to use and making sure those words are in the pages, in the right places, in the titles, and in the body copy higher up and so forth. But they forget, or they just give up on link outreach and link building.
Because it's basically votes to your website, right?
Yeah.
You could consider it like that.
So if nobody votes for you, you are invisible. You're not going to win. Yeah. And not every vote is created equal. So you might work really hard to get a link from Jim Bob's personal homepage. The problem with that is that Jim Bob doesn't have any authority or trust or importance as far as Google's concerned. So you want to get the really high authority sites to link to you, and not from deep, deep down in their website, but high up, even the homepage. Not typically going to happen.
Unlikely, but can happen.
The aim higher, you'll do better. That's kind of the rule I would recommend. So if you don't address all three pillars, you're kind of screwed.
Basically screwed. Touching now a bit on the content part. What if a business owner is struggling? Okay, imagine their mindset. They're so used to doing their service and serving a product. What kind of content should, for example, a real estate broker consider creating every day? If they don't have any clue, like there's not their mindset, what would you tell such person?
I would suggest they start by thinking about who is their target audience, and not every, this is counterintuitive, but the typical target customer or prospect is not the person you should be writing your link bait or content marketing campaigns for typically, because they don't have any authority, trust, or importance as far as Google is concerned. So you need to create content for two different audiences. The linkerati, those influencers, as far as Google sees them, the linkerati, it's like the Illuminati.
I haven't heard of that.
The Illuminati runs the world, right? Supposedly. But the linkerati are the ones who run the web, because their websites are so authoritative and powerful. Just one link from them equals a million links from other websites, right?
You get to pick and choose.
So target them. Target them. And if you create content that is well suited for that audience, you're much more likely to get links from them. And then you do outreach to them, and you build rapport with them, where you go to conferences. Like I'm in an event here in Lisbon, SCM Rush Summer Jam, and I'm meeting all these really cool colleagues that I hadn't seen for years or that I had never met before. Well, this is a great opportunity for me to network with influencers in my industry, in SEO and paid search and so forth. So if you go to events and you network and you maybe speak on stage, you have an opportunity to get in front of or get some visibility with the linkerati. Then you've got content that is for your customer base or your prospects. And that is, you can't not do that. So
it should be separate, right?
You got to think of it separately. It can be both posted to the same blog.
Yeah, of course.
But you need to think strategically about both audiences separately, because they require different things. So with the link bait that is more targeted to the linkerati, you need to start thinking about, like, what are the headlines and the hooks that will engage somebody who's seen a lot of link bait and clickbait, and they're jaded by a lot of it, and they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that. And number 3 will blow your mind, and then it never does, right? When you read the article. So you need to have an understanding of how to write great headlines. That
copywriting, basically.
Yeah, it's copywriting, yeah. But not just any old copywriting. Like a sales copywriter is a whole level above a regular copywriter, right? They've been reading like I don't know, John Carlton or John Caples, scientific advertising, trusted or tested advertising methods, breakthrough advertising. These are all
Schwartz,
yeah,
all the old school books, right? From
old
60s,
school,
50s.
yes.
Now, currently, almost everything that comes out is like regurgitated from those books.
Yeah. Dan Kennedy, of course,
Kennedy.
he's old school. I actually had him on my podcast. I'm really amazed.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is on my Marketing Speak podcast. So Dan Kennedy, I've had on. Jay Abraham, I've had on twice. Actually, no, 3 times, because I had him on my other show on Get Yourself Optimized as well. So he's a legend.
One day I'll reach Jay Abraham.
Yeah, love him. In fact, that's how you heard about me.
Email list from.
So he wrote a really nice email recently. Sent it to his entire list with a recording. Yeah. So Seth Godin, he was also a guest on Marketing Speak.
I was actually just listening to his interview with Tim Ferriss on the car. So
okay, yeah.
Every word that comes out of his mouth is like
amazing. Have you read his book, This Is Marketing?
Not yet, that one, no, not yet, but it's on the list.
Okay, yeah. So we talk a bit about that in my interview. He told me after the interview finished that my interview of him was one of the best interviews he's ever had. I was really floored.
You have to give me some tips on how to interview better then.
Yeah.
I'll watch more of your podcast about that. So from your vast experience, what are the main mistakes that business owners do about SEO? You already said is that
so they don't write anything for the linkerati. They don't even think about trying to get links. They don't outreach for links. If you create great content, there's a movie in the like an English movie called Field of Dreams. It's pretty old now. I don't know if you've heard of it or seen it, but there's a famous line: if you build it, they will come. I don't know if you've heard that before, but if you build it, they will come.
Okay.
Doesn't happen with the web, with SEO. If you build this amazing piece of content, you take tons of great research and you analyze it and you put all this thought and data and everything into this post. Guess what? Nobody's going to see it because they're not thinking, oh, it's been a couple of months since I've been to this
even if
website.
You do good keyword research, right?
Even if you do good keyword research, because it's a case of where the rich get richer. Unless you're already rich, you're a big brand who has lots of authority in Google, you're starting at a very low point. And if you keep writing fantastic content, but you don't do outreach, how are they ever going to find any of it? So you got to get the ball rolling. And once you have that momentum, then you're going to start to just randomly people will find your stuff. But until then, you can't rely on people discovering it by chance.
And how would you approach link building? How do you plan to approach link building? Should people outreach and immediately ask for a link, or the opposite way? First try to build a relationship, which take longer, and then
well, the very first thing is you have to have content that is link worthy.
Exactly, that's the first thing.
Remarkable, in fact. And I'm using that word very deliberately. We just mentioned Seth Godin. Well, the purple cow is all about being remarkable, and Seth's definition of remarkable is worthy of remark.
Yes.
If what you create is not worthy of remark, it doesn't have to be the best, most interesting, most useful, most humorous,
something fresh,
most controversial. It doesn't have to be any of that. Just something about it that makes people say, what? Was that a cow I just drove past in the pasture that was purple? Stop the car. Get the kids out. We got to take pictures, right? So you got to be the purple cow. And it could be that it's, let's say you create an infographic, but it's a really creative way that you created that infographic. Let's say that you create something like there's tons of information out there about baby names, for example, right? So if you are an expectant parent, you're searching for baby names, there's a lot of useful content out there to help you pick a name. However, I bet there isn't a baby name magic 8-ball. You know those magic 8-balls where you shake it and then it gives you your like destiny? Well, what if it gives you your baby name and you have to name your baby with it? And that's like a fun interactive thing. That's your baby name, remarkable content piece. So you just have to be outside the box in terms of your thinking, just creative and not like everybody else, not cookie cutter.
Brilliant. It's a very good advice. So out of all the SEO kind of signals and ranking factors, nobody knows exactly what's the priority? Only Google knows that, right?
Yep. Well, I'd say even Google doesn't know.
Oh, even Google, just one person.
Because not even one person, because they're relying more and more on machine learning and full-blown AI. Like, it will all be AI. SEO will be AI. And guess what? How do you outsmart an AI?
I have no idea.
There's only one way, another AI. So SEO in the future is all going to be about AI. If you are not at least experimenting with machine learning, you are going to be left in the dust. Yeah. And that's not just with SEO. That's across all marketing. Mm-hmm. If you aren't playing with machine learning is not full-blown AI, but it's a step towards full-blown AI. So you feed machine learning with a big data set, some training data, and then it can figure out things that make it work better. Mm-hmm. And the creator of that machine learning algorithm has no idea what's inside that black box.
Created a monster.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully it's not the Terminator or Skynet, right? But you cannot go peek into the code and see what those signals are that caused the algorithm to choose this piece of content over this other piece of content. Mm-hmm. So what do you do in those days? And it's coming fast, right? There's this thing called the law of accelerating returns, and it means that technology is advancing at an exponential rate. It's like whoosh, where we think linearly and we're projecting linearly into the future. Oh yeah, 5 years will be a lot like, 5 years ago. Oh no. Mm-mm. 10 years into the future will be like 100 years ago. That's just mind-blowing. And I'm excited about it, but it terrifies a lot of people because they don't feel like they can keep up just with what happened 6 months ago, let alone, what could happen in 2 or 3 years' time if things are advancing at that fast of a clip. And it's advancing faster and faster.
Okay, and not trying to scare smaller business owners in Portugal. What would be, in your opinion, top three ranking factors that we should prioritize? Yeah.
So links. First and foremost. Yeah, because that's like citation analysis, where the idea that if you have a peer-reviewed journal article in a big scientific journal and that references other articles, those are probably going to be really good articles, right? If it's a lesser article, it's probably referencing other lesser articles. So if you're hanging around in a poor link neighborhood where it's, kind of shanty town as far as the web is concerned, you don't look too good. That's the idea of being in a bad neighborhood. Okay, that's an actual thing that Google refers to in their webmaster guidelines of, don't link to bad neighborhoods, don't acquire links from bad neighborhoods. Anyway, so links is number one. Number two would be to start experimenting with machine learning or artificial intelligence, and there are tools out there that are very accessible. There's a tool that you can share in the show notes and the description of the episode that is a Google Cloud natural language processing tool. Okay. And there's a little free demo. So yeah, you can pay for access to this API, but there's a little box where you can drop in an article, for example, a blog post, your homepage copy, and hit the button, and it analyzes it and tells you your salience scores for all of the topics, all of the entities that it's figured out for your web page or your blog post. So you can say, oh, wait a second, the top salience score I'm getting for this particular page isn't even what this article or blog post is supposed to be about. Yikes. Or the salience score is much lower than I would have hoped for. If the salience is low, that means that Google doesn't think it's very topically relevant to that keyword, to that entity. So it's as simple as, you don't have to pay for anything. You just go to this free tool and you paste in this bit of copy, homepage, blog post, whatever it is. You hit the button and it tells you your salient scores for all the different topics that it's found in that piece of content. So that's an example of machine learning. So start experimenting with machine learning. Read about AI. There are books that are good. There are events. Like I go to something called Abundance 360, which is put on by Peter Diamandis. He's the creator of the X Prize and a futurist. Okay. Amazing conference. You learn about not just AI, but things like 3D printing and longevity research. We're going to be living a lot longer. It's crazy. It's mind blowing what's happening. And so
it's number 2, right?
So that's number 2. And number 3 is the remarkable content. Yes. Have a minimum threshold of remarkability that you are going to commit to hitting with every piece of content that you write, not just for the Linkerati, but for your customers too. They deserve remarkable content too. So if you're going to write about, let's say you're at a trade show, and you're just going to write that, hey, we were at this trade show, and if you were there too, great. Like here's a picture of our booth and us waving and smiling. That's lame. Nobody cares. When you are all about your company, you've got your face to the company and you have your butt to the customer. Yes. Turn around, face the customer, and yes, you have your butt to the company. Yes, you could lose your job if you're working for the boss and that boss doesn't appreciate you not thinking about him or her first, but it's all about the customer. So be customer focused, be remarkable, and have that as a minimum threshold. Yes. And that should reflect in the headline and the title of the article. It should reflect in the body copy. It should reflect in the images that you choose. No boring stock photos from pexels.com. Just stop it. Make it awesome.
That's brilliant to touch that point, because about me. Most companies are doing that, and I even see it on my LinkedIn. It's like everyone is just weird. This conference, this is our products, this is our. Yeah. They don't understand that creating content is something that should be focused on the end user. What's the value you're giving to the user, right?
Yeah. Another great point I'll quickly share about this is I'm reading a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller.
I have it at home.
Yeah. I love it.
Donald Miller. To go on my interview. He's still calendarizing it.
If you get him, that'll be amazing. He said no to me. His team said no to me. I know. I'm like, no way.
You have to go to.
So Donald Miller is brilliant, and one premise from this book or concept that is so critically important is we try to be the hero in our marketing, on our website, in our brochures and our advertising. And that is a big mistake, because that's not going to leave room for the visitor, the viewer, the listener, the consumer of your content to be the hero themselves. Yeah. If they're not the hero, they're not interested. So you got to be the guide, not the hero. Get out of the way, help them to be an amazing superhero in their own company or to their market. And you're basically Yoda to their Luke Skywalker. Yes, you're mentoring them, you're guiding them, you have a plan, you understand their internal problem, not just their external problem. There's a lot to the SB7 framework, so read the book.
Yes, super recommend.
Yeah.
We're touching on the human side versus the machine side. What should be the balance on your opinion? So we have to optimize for humans. They have to be interested in it, but you also have to optimize for the machines, right?
Actually, the machines are going to be more human than the humans. So you got to optimize for the humans. Think about this. Like the AI is going to be full-blown AI is going to be so good at just getting a gut feel, essentially, of whether you wrote this like off the cuff, yes, or you actually did the research. You had empathy in the article. You might think, wow, that's crazy that you could have an algorithm figure out if you're empathic in your writing or not, if you can actually feel that person's pain and empathize with them. Yes. But an algorithm will be better at that than a human. Just like an algorithm will be better at creating the next amazing symphony, or to create the next essentially Van Gogh or Picasso, it will be an AI, yes, not a human. It will be 10,000 or 100,000 times smarter than us in our lifetimes. And that just, again, freaks a lot of people out.
That's true.
But, be excited about the opportunities instead of,
exactly.
Resigned and negative about it. Change happens.
Throughout the history, always changing. There's always someone against it, but we eventually evolve, right?
Yeah. So keep a positive mindset, because negative attracts negative and positive attracts positive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a quick question about all we talked about now, but what we recommend a business owner that wants to create a blog on their website now. Do you have a website? Okay.
Yeah.
With some history behind, right?
Yeah.
They want to start a blog now and start getting traffic in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Is that doable through pure link building?
No.
To create? No.
No.
3 months is not enough.
If you have to do it within 3 months, buy an existing site.
Okay.
But if you buy that existing site, you'll get your page rank reset to 0 by Google as soon as it figures out that it's changed ownership. So what you got to do is do this very thoughtfully and carefully and slowly. So you don't change the who is information, the domain record. You keep the hosting and the same web host. You keep the name servers the same. Maybe even keep the registrant the same. You keep the domain service provider the same. All this the same as much as possible. Slowly, slowly, slowly can you change things like the admin contact and the name servers and so forth. But that should be over the course of many months. And you might even change this content slowly at first, add your new content, but maybe keep a lot of the old content, because as soon as Google figures out that this is under new ownership, it wants to reset you to 0. So, so that's one thing, one workaround if you need really fast results. Another workaround if you need fast results with a new website.
Like all small business owners, they want now, right?
Yeah.
That's the internal conflict between SEO and short
Yeah,
term.
but that's it's unrealistic, and you're setting yourself up for failure if you have unrealistic expectations. But if you absolutely have to get traffic, organic traffic, I'm not going to say organic like search traffic, but organic social traffic could be the way that you get this fast, because you can get immediate results, but it's more of a flash in the pan. Nobody's going to go back to a tweet from 2 weeks ago and say, "Ooh, I got to check that out."
Maximum
right?
2 days, the post is on, and then disappears.
Yeah. So if you leverage Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and drive some immediate traffic that way, and going to maybe hit your numbers that you're after in the first several months. But at the same time, you got to be building out this remarkable content repository, doing the link outreach to let people know that that content is out there, and just continually rinse and repeat.
Working on the business. You have to work on the business long term while doing those short term things.
Yeah.
Brilliant advice. So I have a question about the local SEO for local businesses.
Yeah.
Is it a good starting point for a local business to dominate their local map app, like being on the Google Maps results in Google? Remember, like butcher in Lisbon. It shows up the Google Maps results, right? Do you think it's a good strategy to start up?
Well, it's good to get in the local pack if you're local. If you're trying to get in the local pack and you're not local and you're just trying to game the system, that's a really bad idea. That's not going to last or be able to survive the machine learning algorithms that are going to catch all that stuff, right? So if you think in terms of like, am I the best provider in my local area, and is my local area what I consider the local area? Is it the same area? Like you might be in a suburb of Lisbon, but that suburb is a half hour away. So do you really deserve a top ranking in the local results for Lisbon for that type of business?
For user experience, right?
Yeah.
Google's
It's very frustrating for a user. So if you deserve to be there, if you're local, I mean, that's part of the algorithm is distance from the city centroid, and there's a lot of complexity just even to the local search. I mean, if you have high ratings in Google Maps, and if enough legitimate ratings and stuff, some people try and buy those ratings or fake reviews and all that. Remember, the AI will figure that stuff out. Just like it can create write a symphony, it can certainly sniff out fake bogus reviews. Yeah.
And another way that I wanted to discuss with you is the YouTube has a similar algorithm to Google's algorithm. It's kind of based off.
Oh, it's completely different.
Completely different?
Completely different.
So you approach your video creation completely different. You don't make similar keyword research for your videos? No,
because people behave differently on YouTube than they do on Google. If I'm, let's say I'm searching for, I don't know, build a door or something like that. I want to learn how to build a door on YouTube, and I want to see that in action. I want a video. Searching on for how-to type information on YouTube are looking for tutorials and how-to sort of content, whereas maybe on Google they're just looking to buy a thing, a book, or
the intent is different, right?
Yeah, the intent is different, and the expectation of the delivery is different. So thus their behavior is different. If I know that I'm not going to end up buying something from YouTube because it's all video content, right?
How-to mostly.
Entertainment or education or edutainment, right? I'm not expecting to end up landing on a page where I can just quickly check out and have the thing, arrive at my door. So the behavior, there's navigational and transactional and informational search queries or keywords that will be typed in for Google searches. But how many transactional queries do you think are going to be typed in to, or navigational into YouTube? Almost none. So you can't just extrapolate and say, well, I did this keyword research on Google and now I'm going to apply it to YouTube. So you need to use some YouTube specific keyword research. And there are some tools out there that will help with that, like Video Amigo. Just even the YouTube search box is a bit of keyword research as you do the autocomplete. The autocomplete suggestions are, somewhat based on popularity in YouTube. So you need to think about what's popular on YouTube as a separate search engine. It is the #2 search engine, so you definitely want to pay attention to that. And if you don't have a channel, yes, it is actually a social network, because you can favorite things and likes and dislikes and and comments and so forth. It is a community. It is a social network, but much more so it's a search engine. It's by search query volume #2. So you definitely want to be there with a channel, with your videos and so forth. If you just like, let's say we're Jay and just left it alone and figure, my videos are up there because people take video of me and they publish it. Well, you've given all of that to them, all the juice that they get, all of the watch time and the likes and the views and everything belongs to those channel owners and not to you as Jay Abraham. So you got to really be proactive in terms of YouTube. And there are tactical things and there's strategic things, but YouTube is very AI based already. And the recommendation engine is what powers most of these YouTubers' growth. If you're a YouTuber, you are so reliant on the recommendation engine, not the search part of YouTube, but the part that says, hey, if you like that video, you're gonna like all these, stuff over in the right-hand column. If you are not loved by that recommendation engine, by that AI, you're kind of dead in the water as a YouTuber.
That's true. And picking up on the keyword research, I'm curious about your content creation approach. Do you start with a topic in mind and then you do the keyword research, or you start with the keyword research and then you build on some piece of content on that?
I start with brainstorming. I think of keyword research as a 2-phase process. So I'll start with the brainstorming phase and then I'll move on.
On your mind first?
Not just, I will start getting ideas from keyword tools like Answer the Public or Google Suggest, YouTube Suggest, or like Topic Explorer from Search Metrics. So I start getting ideas and then I expand on that and I start getting hard numbers and I compare different synonyms with each other and related terms, and I start thinking about LSI keywords, which are keywords that are relevant and related to the topic. And if I don't talk about those things, then my article looks very surface level. So I want to make it look very comprehensive and a solid piece of content. So I need to incorporate the LSI keywords into the content as well. But yeah, if I start with brainstorming, let's say I'm using Answer the Public, which is, you can use that tool for free. There's a small pay, like a small amount of a fee that you pay for the pro version, $10 or something like that.
It gives you like
per
a
month.
mind map, right?
Yeah, it's a map of questions that people ask Google, that they're typing in or that they're speaking to, like Google Home and so forth. And that gives you great ideas to write FAQs or to create videos or to write blog posts. So that's all wonderful
You still have
market
to match
research.
that information with keyword research, like the actual data, right? From the answer to the public, you still have to see if it actually.
Yeah, so remember, this is
relevant.
brainstorming.
Yeah, got it.
So I'm getting ideas.
Brainstorming.
Like I mentioned baby names earlier. Like
Yes.
if I were selling baby furniture online, bassinets and cribs and so forth, I might never consider baby names to be a very good opportunity to target, but it actually is, because who is searching for baby names is expectant parents. And if you think about the buyer journey, the customer journey for that expectant parent, what happens before they buy the crib or the bassinet? They're doing other things to prepare for the baby arriving.
Of course, yeah.
And one of the first things they do once they find out the sex of the baby at the ultrasound appointment is hop onto Google and search for what? Baby names. Yeah.
Either male, female, yeah, exactly.
Yes, because they're looking for baby names, and if that's an expectant parent searching for that, certainly not anybody else.
Make much sense.
Right.
Could happen, but
It's unlikely, very unlikely. So it's very much your target audience, and it's earlier on in the buyer journey. So that means that you can influence the buying criteria by injecting some ideas around what the buying criteria should be. Maybe you have an essential nesting checklist that they download as a free PDF download, and that has all the criteria for, like, this is the kind of crib you should get. This is, the mobile that you should hang above the crib. These are the different toys that you should have in the room, and all that. So you are setting those buying criteria. It's very, very powerful, and you probably would never have thought of that if you hadn't started with just a simple keyword brainstorming exercise of, let's say, going to Google and typing in the keystrokes BABY.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the very first suggestions that will appear,
Names.
besides Baby Shark, which is really stupid, it's a song that once it's in your head, no, you will never get it out.
Uh-oh.
So do not Google for Baby Shark if you don't know what I'm talking about. So baby names will appear way near the top of that list of suggestions as you're typing in the keystrokes. Baby names, wait a second, is that maybe an opportunity, right? So that's the brainstorming process for keyword research. And then you can go into Moz Keyword Explorer or SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever tool or tools that are your favorites.
You like Keyword Finder?
Yeah, Keyword Finder is fine. And it's so many of these tools out there. And then you start getting the data around, like, baby names, very popular, but I'm not probably going to rank right away for that if I ever do. Super competitive keyword according to the tool.
Too early, maybe.
Maybe I should go after, like, unusual baby names or cute baby names or baby name meanings or baby name selector or something. I need some torso terms, not the head term, because realistically, I'm not going to get number one for the head term. And so now you're in the hardcore keyword research. You're looking at the numbers. You're seeing trends. You're comparing different synonyms and verb tenses. Yeah.
Such a masterclass. I mean, again, the importance of knowing your customer, knowing what's the intent of each where they put on Google. So thank you for that.
Yep.
So we talked a bit about voice.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of SEO now with the advent of voice and audio?
What a change is coming.
Oh
my goodness. What a change. Like, we're playing around with our Echo, Amazon Echo, and
Google Home.
It's lousy as far as, like, getting useful information out of the Echo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, Alexa, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what? I didn't even say that. It's like,
sometimes when I don't speak with Google Home, she says something.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not very useful. It's great for telling you the time and the weather.
True. Putting alerts.
Yeah, like set a timer, right? But Google Home is much better for getting actual solid answers back. But what we're going to be seeing over the coming few years is the sea change, this massive change from typing on our devices, our computers and smartphones and all that, to speaking to them. Name a science fiction movie where they're typing on a keyboard of some size, right? They're speaking.
That's true.
Computer, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then it's done, right?
That's true.
Or it's in a virtual reality kind of situation, where like Minority Report, where you're like,
no digital
doing
things. Yeah.
You're not typing.
Yeah.
I got to spell out this word. Not going to happen. You're going to speak to your technology, to your personal agent that is going to be better than you at figuring out the coolest new trends and technologies and articles that you're going to like. And it's going to essentially read that stuff for you and bubble up to the very top, just the best stuff. And it's going to be a personal agent that you trust. So if you're going to be talking to your computer, much better, much more than to typing into it. This is, by the way, called the LUI, the Linguistic User Interface. Remember the GUI, Graphical User Interface? Do you remember back in the day? You may be too young for this, but MS-DOS was actually a thing. MS-DOS, yeah. Yep. And people would type in like things to like go into these different directories and stuff. Something. Oh my goodness! Thank goodness those days are over. Although I do go into the terminal window on my Mac and do some Ninja line, command line stuff.
Nostalgic thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to that stuff. Anyways, so if you imagine that you are on MS-DOS back in those days, and then suddenly the graphical user interface, the GUI, comes out, and it's Windows, 3.1 or whatever that you get. It's like, wow, what a different world. And you quickly adapt. Can you imagine what it's going to be like to go from typing all the time on our computers to talking to them mostly? Massive change, bigger change than what we had when we went from MS-DOS to Windows. Yes. So if that's what's coming, we need to prepare for that. And certainly what's going to happen with the future of search is that we will be, as users, speaking our search queries and not thinking like this book is another one of my books. I meant Google search. This is all about using advanced Google search query operators and things to find stuff that normally is not easily found. Confidential business plans of competitors, for example, or Forrester research reports that normally cost thousands of dollars. All this sort of stuff is in this book, how to find that sort of stuff. But nobody's going to be saying, site colon, blah, 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 BuzzFeed.com and keyword plus, in title colon, da, da, da. They're not going to be using those advanced queries. They're just going to explain to the technology, to the AI, what they want.
So keyword research would have to adjust a bit, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be keyword research. Yes, it's going to be intent research. It's going to be, it's research into how people think and how they verbalize and kind of map out in their mind a process or a problem. Are they thinking about the problem? Are they thinking about the solution? Are they aware of the problem, or are they unaware of the problem? Are they solution aware? All those sorts of thoughts. Yeah. So there's so much stuff that we could be talking about. But anyways, so voice search completely will change the game, but it's not really voice search. It's voice answers. Because when you when you talk to your phone, to your Google app and ask it to do a query and it gives you results back, that's voice search. It's not voice answers. When you speak to Google and it speaks back to you, that's voice answers, and it's usually based on the featured snippet. So what you should be doing now as a small business owner or a marketer or even an intern or whatever is you should be focusing on being a featured snippet for a search query. And then you will be not only in position 0 in the search results where you view them, but you will be the spoken answer to that search query. That's the future. And you can be, let's say, number 3 or 4. You could be lower than position 1 and still take the featured snippet of position 0. You see it all the time. There's a featured snippet, and then lower than number 1 is that entry in the regular search results. So you don't have to be number 1. You just have to be better at answering the question, like concisely, comprehensively, and accurately and get higher than normal click-through rate for your position in the search results. So if you get higher than normal click-through rate at number 3 and you have a better answer than number 1 does,
You might be featured.
you'll probably be featured.
Is it like the first paragraph after your title headline? What's the featured snippet that shows up in those kind of queries?
Well, let's say you type into Google how to tie a tie.
Yes.
In that case, you will see a numbered list snippet, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
These are the steps. When you
Numbered lists, very important.
So let's say that you are targeting a how-to sort of search query to be the featured snippet. Then you should create a numbered list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Yep.
It could be an OL, like ordered list, like HTML coded list, or it could be just heading tags with the number 1, 2, and 3. And Google's smart enough to figure out like, oh, this looks like a list to me. It doesn't have to be coded as an ordered list in HTML. So, but if you haven't structured your answer in a way that it is a list, in this case, a numbered list, then it's not the right format, and thus you missed out on the opportunity. Because if Google wants to display something that's useful as how to tie a tie, and it's just this vomited big paragraph of text, like here's how you do it, and blah, blah, and it's not well structured, that's not a good user experience. You're not going to take the featured snippet. So you also need to be in the right format. So how to numbered list type of featured snippet. If you know, you're like asking best Netflix movies of Google, then a bulleted list, right? If you're asking like what was the reason that World War I started, paragraph snippet. You don't need a numbered list. You don't need a bulleted list.
That'd be stupid.
Yeah. So be in the right format, be accurate, concise, comprehensive, and try and get higher than normal click-through rate by being a very compelling search listing. Great title that doesn't tip your hand too much, right? So you don't want to like show all your cards. Like this is the reason. So the reason why World War I started was ... is a much better title than Duke Archduke Ferdinand getting assassinated caused World War I. Well, you just gave me the answer. I don't need to go click on your listing and go to your page. So you need to leave some intrigue or mystery to it, and not give everything away.
Again, copywriting.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
And so the podcast, you think it's also important? You're betting a lot on it.
Well, yeah, I've been podcasting now for 4 years. Actually, I started in 2007, and then I pod faded and then came back and yeah. So I stopped podcasting for years, and then I came back 4 years ago, and now I've been consistent. You have to be consistent. If you want a podcast, you got to be there every week at the same time. And so I've been doing that. Haven't missed an episode every week. Marketing Speak and Get Yourself Optimized for 4 years. And yeah, I believe in the medium. I believe that if I have a more intimate relationship with my listeners than I would if it was just like YouTube videos. Not that I'm knocking YouTube. There's a place for that. You need to be at the focused on that number 2 search engine as well. But with podcasting, you have this intimate relationship with the listener. They're driving or jogging or at the gym working out, and they can't watch something. They have to just listen. So it's either you or an audiobook typically, or another podcast, or just music. So you don't have a lot of options. And if they love your podcast and you're consistent and they know to count on you that every week it's going to be a new awesome episode at the same time, then you will have a loyal following and just be like, you're like Oprah, and every Oprah show, the same person's sitting there watching, excited to see what guests are going to be on.
Brilliant. Yes, we're reaching now the end. I would just want to ask you, if you would have to recommend a book on marketing entrepreneurship, what would it be? One of these two?
Yeah. My goodness. So it depends on what you're after. So if you're wanting a book on copywriting, breakthrough advertising,
It's not a cheap book, but it's
no, it's
worth
crazy. It's like $300 or something. If you're looking to upskill on SEO, yeah, The Art of SEO is the best book out there. I am biased, of course, but it is. And if you're looking to learn more and excel in social media marketing, then Social E-commerce is also my book, also published by O'Reilly. If you want to learn about conversion and storytelling in a web environment, then Building a Story Brand. If you want to learn about like persuasion and influence, then the book Influence.
Psychology Persuasion.
Yeah. So that one's by Robert Cialdini. So many great books. So many great books. Yeah.
You cannot choose one, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, so finally, how can people find you?
Yeah, so stephanspencer.com. That's my main website. There are a bunch of resources that people can check out, PDF guides and things like that, lots of videos and archived webinars and things like that. I also have marketingspeak.com for my marketing podcast, which covers SEO and paid search and copywriting, conversion, analytics, all that. And then getyourselfoptimized.com for my Get Yourself Optimized podcast, which may sound like an SEO podcast, but it is not. It has nothing to do with SEO. It's all biohacking, life hacking, productivity. I've had Tim Ferriss on. I've had Dave Asprey, David Allen, just some real legends. Michael Gerber, who wrote the E-Myth. Lots of great stuff in there about like up-leveling your life, your career, your business, your relationships. Harville Hendricks was amazing. Do you know who that is? He's the creator of Imago Couples Therapy.
Okay.
One thing I learned that just has nothing to do with SEO, but this will optimize your intimate relationship with your partner. It will be amazing. Okay. Every night before you go to sleep, say 3 things that you appreciate about your partner, and then have her do the same thing, or him. And it will transform your relationship. We never miss it. Harville Hendricks, when he told me that he had not missed a single day of doing this in 18 years with his wife, I was floored. I'm like, I'm so motivated to do this, and we've been doing it for 3 years now.
Even when you're long distance?
Yeah.
We
sometimes we miss it, so we don't get it every single night. But I'd say 95 times out of 100. We will get it.
Healthy.
It's amazing. And it's not focused on like, how do we fix problems and stuff? Let's focus on the positive, because remember, positive attracts more positive.
Thank you so much for being on my show. It was a pleasure. So, too many knowledge bombs were dropped. Obrigado por estarem desse lado. Foi prazer. Se gostarem do vídeo, por favor, deixem um gosto, subscrevam ao canal e até o próximo vídeo. Muito obrigado.
Bye, everybody.